Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we had a great hearing in the Indian Affairs Committee yesterday, and I wanted to come to the floor and talk a little bit about it. But before I do, I want to thank Chair Murkowski, Vice Chair Schatz, and especially Senator Mullen, Markwayne Mullen, who came to the hearing to hear the 130-year-old saga of what I consider as injustice, racism, and all kinds of bad things that the Lumbee people have experienced. Back in January, I introduced the Lumbee Fairness Act, which is to right what I consider to be more than a century wrong. And the issue's come before Senate many times, but every time it's failed. It's like the Lumbee have been promised so many times by so many politicians and so many election cycles, and yet at the end of the day, they're left without a resolution to a problem that started over 130 years ago when they were first recognized by the state of North Carolina. You know, these days, it is rare to see Republicans and Democrats come together and doing anything. But when it comes to Lumbee recognition, the support has become overwhelming, and it's bipartisan. We're talking about support from the current president, Trump, former President Joe Biden, Vice President J.D. Vance, Vice President Harris, former Vice President, Governor Josh Stein, the North Carolina General Assembly, and nearly every member of our congressional delegation. Here in the Senate, nearly 24 members from both parties have co-sponsored the Lumbee Fairness Act, including Senator Schatz, the vice chair of the committee, and Senator Mullen, who sit together on the committee. Now, what's interesting about Senator Mullen is Markwayne Mullen is an enrolled member of the Cherokee Nation. The major opponent to Lumbee Fairness Act being passed are the Cherokee. Let that sink in. A policy maker in this room, a member of the U.S. Senate, is an enrolled member of a tribe that is opposing Lumbee recognition. Why are they doing it? Well, over the past, they'd say the Lumbee were fake Indians or they weren't real. Their story was fabricated. They've gone to conventions. They've done all kinds of things to try and mislead people about this issue. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not going to let them off the hook this time. But before I talk more about the Lumbee, I do want to talk to the Cherokee people. I moved to North Carolina in 1998. I got involved in politics in 2006. I ran for the legislature, and Mr. President, I became Speaker of the House in 2011, the second Republican Speaker since the Civil War. For years, politicians have been promising the Eastern Band of the Cherokee that they would renegotiate their compact and treat them more respectfully. And for years, those promises were not fulfilled. I became Speaker, and the only bill in the 4 years, the 2 terms that I was Speaker of the House, that I ever allowed to go to the House floor without a majority of the support of my Republican colleagues was to right the injustice that was done on the Eastern Band of the Cherokee by negotiating, by allowing them to modernize and negotiate a new compact which was transformational for the enrolled members of the Eastern Band of the Cherokee. So to the Eastern Band of the Cherokee, not the leaders who are opposing this now, people that I consider to be a part of the casino cartels that are objecting to this because of money, to the Cherokee people, no, I care as much about you today as I did when I took the step to oppose a majority of my Republican colleagues to right that wrong. And we did. Now I've got another tribe in my state, and I want to right that wrong. And the Cherokee are standing in the way. But it's not just the Cherokee. It's the Choctaw. It's the Chickasaw. It's other tribes. But folks, I'm not letting off of this. The Lumbee's history is long and well documented. They were recognized by the state of North Carolina in 1885 and began seeking federal recognition just 3 years later. That was 137 years ago. During the 20th century, the Lumbee were among the dozens of victims of the termination era a very dark period in our nation's history where on this floor, racist policies, Jim Crow policies were acting out every single day. And the Lumbee became a victim. In 1956, Congress passed the Lumbee Act that acknowledged the tribe but cruelly denied them the benefits and recognition that every other tribe receives, putting them in a no man's land. The federal government has since worked to correct the grave injustices of the termination era for nearly every other tribe, except for the Lumbee. Time and again, the Lumbee have proven their case. The records are filled with testimony, studies, and reports that all lead to one conclusion. The Lumbee are a tribe fully deserving of federal recognition. The House has acknowledged that repeatedly, passing the Lumbee recognition bill with broad bipartisan support in every Congress since the 116th. This year, it was unanimously voted and included in the National Defense Authorization Act that we're about to begin conferencing on. In 2022, I promised to identify and expose the small but persistent opposition to this bill. And I'm not going to go into the details here. I did in a speech that I did yesterday. But let me just tell you what I found was pretty simple. It's a small handful of well-funded tribes hiring high-priced D.C. lobbyists to spin half-truths and stir fear, motivated by profit, not principle. At the center of that opposition, it is the Eastern Band of the Cherokee leadership. Again, let me make the distinction between the elected leaders of the Eastern Band of the Cherokee and a tribe that I am fully dedicated to, and I've demonstrated that through the actions that I made when I was the Speaker of the House in North Carolina. But at the center of the opposition, it's also a lobbyist whose name I'll have you refer to my testimony yesterday. But it's just rooted in financial self-interest, folks. And that's their right. But let's not pretend it's anything more. We've got them. We've found them passing out leaflets at Native American conventions talking about fake Indians, undermining the case for the Lumbee. It's disgraceful. But we're tracking them, and everywhere we go, almost invariably, I can find somebody that can give me information when they're trying to spread myths, lies, and confusion. The Eastern Band, in reality, it's not just about the Lumbee. The Eastern Band of the Cherokee have opposed nearly every recognition effort in their geographic vicinity that might affect their financial interests. They tried to do it with the Catawba, and we succeeded there. Now they're running the same playbook on the Lumbee. They're spending millions of dollars on lobbyists and pay-for-play reports. They'll pay whoever they have to conjure some sort of report that builds their case. It's like, I have this thesis, now give me a report to support it, because it's going to keep the Lumbee in this limbo that they've been in for 137 years. It is disappointing to see the kind of money wasted on tearing down other tribes instead of lifting up their own people. To the leadership of the Eastern Band of the Cherokee, spend those millions of dollars on education, on improving the situation in the boundary, helping your people like I have. So, now yesterday in the hearing, the principal chief of the Eastern Band of the Cherokee says, let it just happen in the Department of the Interior. Let it run its course. Well, that is political speak for let the administration do it, take 10 or 20 years, and then we'll have a lawsuit that will take another generation to settle. We know their playbook. I've studied this. I know what they're doing, and we're going to match them at every step along the way. Since 1978, they said don't recognize them by an act of Congress. Let it go through the process. But here's the reality. Congressional recognition has become the norm. Since 1978, twice as many tribes have been recognized by Congress as through the administrative process. Congress has recognized tribes by legislation many times, including the Little Shell tribe of the Chippewa Indians in the 2020 NDA and 6 Virginia tribes in the 2017 National Defense Authorization Act. I supported both of those bills because it was the right thing to do. So, Mr. President, in closing, I hope that the Eastern Band of the Cherokee leadership know that I care about the people of the Eastern Band of the Cherokee as much as I care about the Lumbee. I went to great lengths to have the Eastern Band experience the benefits that came from the work that I did as Speaker of the House. I will go to great lengths in my remaining time in the Senate to help them in the future, as soon as they do the right thing and allow the Lumbee people, after 137 years, to get the federal recognition that they deserve. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. President.